This is the Between Extraordinary Part 16. We're picking up with a night phase. And indeed, we're going to take a look at the night shift at St. Thomas's, sitting across from the Thames, or sitting across the Thames from the Palace of Westminster. St. Thomas's Hospital is London's newest hospital, purpose-built to the most modern standards of medicine. It consists of sprawling wings joined by covered walkways, allowing convalescent patients to take the air during the day, but at night, a skeleton crew struggle to save their charges from the illness, accidents, and violence that stalk the gloom. Brian, a destitute woman, is in the throes of a complicated birth, a porter holding her down while a surgeon prepares to operate. How do we know the child will never meet their birth mother?
The woman is in enough pain and distress, and that the surgeon asked for kind of a rare administration of ether, and they put that mask over her mouth, administer the drops of ether, but then an enormous amount of blood loss, consternation on the face of the surgeon, and he switches tools. And it's clear that he is no longer attempting to keep the mother alive, that he's going to just try and save the child. And ultimately, the attendant just places a cloth over the face of the woman, and they keep operating.
Nighttime in London. Jakob, you had mentioned that you were going to be the one to confront Sally No Face with the truth and to try to talk her out of whatever all this madness of hers. Where are you going to go? What's your approach here?
I also need my suits cleaned again. I've lost my cleaning
Yeah,
lady
dude.
essentially.
Yeah.
Where am I going to go?
Where are you going to go? What
Is
are you
her
going to do?
exhibit still occurring? That the exhibition that was on display?
Sure. Yeah.
Um, I feel like I want to go confront that sort of pompous little assistant that she had, and cause a scene with him to try and bring her out in the open so we can chat.
I love that. We'll come back to it in a bit. And for viewers, this is going to be an extended night phase. So just FYI. Ms. Balakwa, you're continuing the investigation of the Fig family. What's your approach?
I think I'm going to go back to the shop. I
Okay.
think that at night, either my sensitivity might play into play, or I might even see little Patrick around lingering.
And we've only really looked at the basement and the upstairs too. There's still the front of house and the back of house to kind of go through. Fantastic. I love that. And Mr. Constantine and Lady Florence, eventually, um, you are going to go to Hempstead?
Yep, that's Dom's plan.
Very good. Lady Florence, at what point do you plan on letting Mr. Constantine know that you're there? Are you going to follow him all the way into the house or just to the neighborhood or what? Are you going to wait till he gets in trouble and then
I
save
think it's
him?
gonna basically be like wait until he gets into trouble. I don't know if I necessarily save him. I think I may be here just to see what happens in classic Lady Florence style. But I'm there in case things get out of hand. But I also believe in Dom's ability to confront his own demons.
I'd like to pick up with Hampstead. This is at this time it's very close to being almost like a rural suburb. It is technically in the city, but there are great big, like lawns, and like this house that Mr. Constantine is going to looks like a manor house in the country, right? Even though it's technically within the boundaries of the city. And the night that you've been given, all of you, is a lot like the night that's in my background on Zoom. It is full moon. It is fog bank. It is diffuse gaslight. its shadows wending this way and that. Footsteps in the dark, Mr. Constantine, yours. Footsteps in the dark, a little ways behind, Lady Florence. And Lady Florence, your footsteps are soon joined by another pair of footsteps. Heavy ones, big ones. It's the slugger. He says, "It seems you and I had similar plans for the evening."
I was going to say the same thing to you, actually.
Well, what sort of trouble do we suppose he's getting himself into?
He's been dealing with some demons since long before you knew him.
Well,
This feels like it may be that coming to a head.
it all makes sense. I don't consider myself, well, before all of this, I didn't really consider myself a superstitious man or one to be taken in by stories of paranormal or the occult. But since my time in Hargrave House, I have been consulting with the seer, and no, not Ms. Balakwa. I find she cannot be bothered to bring herself so low as to offer tarot card readings and palmistry, whatever it's called. The seer has told me that this is the night I'll die. And so, if there's any truth in it, I at least want to be sure that I'm dying doing something worthy.
We'll see if we may be able to change that fate. But there is a time and a place for all of us.
Mm.
I wouldn't put too much faith into the seers, though.
He breathes and continues on. Mr. Constantine, let's paint the scene. This house in Hampstead, at a distance, doesn't stand out for any particular reason from all the other well-appointed homes in the area. Except, if you get closer, you can tell, if you know, that it's the home of a 3,000-year-old werewolf. What do we see that indicates such?
I think the Wolf King is not without a bit of a sense of humor, and as we get closer, we can see and smell in the air that whoever is living here has been cultivating just massive amounts of wolfsbane. It's everywhere. It's along the house. It's in the edge of the forest. He knows it does nothing, but this is a little joke.
The irony, yeah, it's good.
Was that just for
No,
Mr.
it's everybody.
Constantine?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think that if you were to walk around the back of the house, you would notice large sections of the roof replaced with glass as the full moon beams directly into the house.
Hmm.
There's a sheep pen, something you might not expect in Hampstead, but it seems like from the ruts in the road that sheep are delivered fairly often. Rather than being raised here, they are brought to this location and then put into their little tiny corral.
It's like the milkman.
And I think that there's these like forcefully torn paths around the estate through the woods. that you can see where something seemed to be rushing through, almost like a well-trod path, but probably only trod once or twice.
Yeah. Ms. Belacqua, you are at the pie shop. Were you there last time?
I was trying to recall that as well.
I don't think you were.
I don't think I was.
No, it was Lady Florence and Dom.
That's
I
right.
recall
And the
correctly. So this
gaggle
is-
of children and snakes.
Yeah, so this is your first trip to the pie shop. Are you going in through the front or the back?
I think that I would go and straight through the front door.
Hmm. Yeah. I think when you go in, there's no one to stop you, and it's unlocked. Well, in fact, there might even be a police constable who will let you in because you're working with Scotland Yard on this. You and the police constable are both surprised to see someone very badly duck behind the front counter so that they are not seen. What do you do?
Did you let anyone else in this evening, Constable?
No, I didn't, ma'am. And he's kind of going for his billy club.
And motion for him to go this way, and I
Yeah,
go the other way.
yeah,
And we kind of circle around to see if we can corner the person behind the counter.
yeah. You do. You see there a man, even with your lantern, you can see well that he has a head of luxurious silver hair, and he even has his pipe with the Flying Dutchman motif, and he smells very antiseptic. And he says, "Oh, my goodness, how did I get behind here?"
I imagine your
Officer?
legs carried you.
I'm terribly sorry. But I'm Dr. Rodney Walters from Bethlehem Royal Hospital. And the police constable says, he's kind of like, "Are you supposed to be here? Did Scotland Yard invite you here?" And he says, "No, but I'm responsible for the care and convalescence of Mr. Fig, and I wanted to do a little bit of field research to have a better sense of who the man really is." And he looks at you specifically, Miss Belacqua. "And are you with Scotland Yard?"
Goodness, no. My specialties lie elsewhere.
Well, nevertheless, I think that, well, you're here with the police constable, so you must be in some sort of official capacity. And I'm here in a quasi-official capacity, so perhaps we could look around together. I certainly didn't expect to be quite suddenly come upon by a beautiful woman in the night.
Yes, well, we strike when you least expect it. Constable, you can wait outside. I can manage the good doctor here.
He says, "Oh, I tell you, Mr. Fig has been mostly non-responsive, truth be told. He just sings his little song when you ask him anything. A fascinating case, really. I don't think any of the literature has ever covered someone with a condition quite like his. Someone needs to write an article about it, and it might as well be me, am I right? And so that's why I'm here, to really learn what would drive someone, a whole family, say, to engage in something so completely and utterly savage as to eat and serve his fellow man."
Well, you seem quite seduced by the idea yourselves, Doctor.
Well, I do occasionally, he's got his pipe and he's smoking his pipe. I do occasionally find myself having to cleanse my humors, so to speak, when it comes to our patients. I get very, very involved in my work, and I sometimes find myself empathizing with them in ways that are perhaps not completely helpful. Fortunately, I have a very active social calendar, though not so active that I can't fit you in if need be. And that keeps me grounded. He's just kind of going through things, moving papers about, and he doesn't really seem like he knows what he's doing.
I think that I will at this point turn my back to him. Just the smarmy nature of his advances is very off-putting. And I think Victoria will go about and poke in the front of the shop to see what there is to see without really acknowledging whatever shuffling he's doing.
Let's do the information move with I'm gonna say composure because you're dealing with him.
Yeah.
Let's take a
Let's
look at
see.
your conditions, see if anything might apply.
I
No-
still have that pigment and then most beloved, I think,
Nah,
are
you're
my two.
okay. You can just
Mhm.
roll regular. Yeah.
Ooh, a pair of fives.
Pair of fives, very good. And your composure is 1, so it's 11. Yeah. We'll come back to this. Jakob, you go to this warehouse and you get quite a different response from the posh boy this time because he saw you. Indeed, he attempted to stab you, and the blade did not pierce your skin. And he kind of gets up and he's got like a few big, burly, tough guys with him. And he says, "Just stop right there, Mr. Walsh. We don't want any trouble."
Stop or what?
Well, though I certainly can't explain it, you seem to be somewhat resistant to the edge of a blade. But fortunately, we have clubs tonight. Would you say you are equally resistant?
If you think a club is going to do something that a blade doesn't, that's quite an imagination you have.
I am not above experimenting, sir. So perhaps you should just state your business.
I am here to collect your employer. Call out Sally No Face or Clara, depending upon what you call her.
He gives you an interesting look. He's wearing kind of like a navy blue blazer and red shorts and hat. And he says, "Well, I suppose I can let her know you're here. Are you willing to help her with Ms. Balakwa?" You'll recall she wants Ms. Balakwa's face.
I don't think in the way that she desires. I think that Sally's long reign of terror has come to an end.
I would like the night move to see if you can get the posh boy to do what you wish.
Mhm.
What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
Oh, a fight ensues and Sally No Face escapes into the night.
I think it's worse than that. I think you discovered to your chagrin that the bats work surprisingly well.
Bats filled with gin. How did they know?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. One of them's got a bottle of gin that unbeknownst to them, just happens to be helping out in this situation.
Right. I'm sorry, I forget. Gin is the one alcohol that I can't have. All the other alcohols. Anyway, a bat filled with some kind of booze.
Yeah. They happen to have a bottle. Just the proximity is enough, right? Let's go with I think you're trying to intimidate, so I think this is certainly presence. And but you are marked by Sally No Face. I'm gonna put you at disadvantage.
All right. Is that? Oh, that's a 4. That's terrible.
4. We'll come back to the scene in a bit.
All right.
Mr. Constantine, you see someone coming up the lane. someone I don't think you recognize. It's a woman. She's wearing a very expensive looking purple gown with a veil, though not worn in mourning. It's worn for fashion purposes. It's more, we'll say it's a hood. She's got like a hood on her gown. Very, very stylish. And as you're approaching Kenwood House, she sort of intercepts you before you can get too close. She says, I wouldn't go there.
And why is that?
Well, the people who frequent Kenwood House are not exactly good company.
Then they're my kind of people.
What kind of people might those be, sir?
What is it that brought you to Kenwood House?
I'm in the neighborhood visiting an old friend. My name is Clemence Talbot, Countess Clemence Talbot. And you are?
My name is Dominic Constantine.
What a strong, assertive name. Dominic Constantine. It's suggestive of things, isn't it?
It suits me.
Yes, I can see that it indeed does. Surely you can find better ways to occupy your time this evening than going into a dusty old house filled with very disagreeable people, Mr. Constantine.
Likely, but alas, I have business.
I can't even tempt you with a nightcap.
You could not.
Well, I feel like if I let you go there, I would be doing you a great disservice if I didn't at least come with you to try to keep you safe.
Well, I will play along in that case. It should be interesting, Clemens.
You are so, Mr. Constantine, not everyone in the world wants to hurt you or inconvenience you. Some people think there are things in this world worth living for. Pleasures.
Yes, well, I'm eager to prove them wrong.
She takes your arm nonetheless. I think you're close enough, Lady Florence and the Slugger, to see this woman kind of stopping Dom. You have to stop yourself so you don't come upon them. And Dom says, who do you suppose that is?
Are you jealous?
Why would I be jealous of her when I have your scintillating company this evening, Lady Florence?
Oh, such a charmer you are, sure.
Sorry, I'm not a spacefaring imperial warlord. Not exactly your type, I suppose.
You almost got to that point, though, didn't you?
Well, let's just leave the past in the past, shall we?
I'd say we keep an eye on this companion of your companion.
The plot thickens in any case. And he says, have you noticed that we've been followed this entire time?
Oh, I have.
Oh, have you? Who's been following us then?
Well, why don't we look around and see?
Lady Florence, I know that you weren't raised in some of the tough neighborhoods that I was raised in, and so I don't expect you to know when you're being cased by a lowlife. I'm sure you didn't have many opportunities to deal with ruffians. We've seen how you avail yourself in the fighting ring. So let me tell you, that person over there and over there and over there. They have stayed in that same relative position to us for the last few minutes, moving along, watching. Whoever Dom is here to find, I think that they've found us.
And so the hunters become the hunted, I suppose, as the cliche goes.
Yes, I was about to say, I was about to be very, very unimpressed by your idioms. So, what shall we do about this?
What's your take? It sounds like you've got a death wish this evening.
I say we go confront them directly. Between the two of us, we should be able to handle ourselves well enough.
Let's make a little sport of it, shall we? How about a bet?
This
Said
is
there's
interesting.
3.
Indeed.
I assume that we'll split the first 2 evenly.
Mhm.
And perhaps whoever gets to the 3rd first wins this little wager.
And what are we wagering?
How about a favor?
All right. It's going to have to be a favor that I can fulfill by the end of this night if I lose.
Oh, I'm sure that that can be arranged. I have plans. But you, as well, will need to come up with a favor for me if you win. I don't expect that to happen.
Does this favor
but
involve putting poor children in danger?
it may.
I would expect nothing less of you, Lady Florence.
But I'm sure you're quite confident that you'll win. I, of course, am confident that I'll win. So let's see what happens.
Ms. Belacqua, I owe you a clue. I should probably review the clues you've already got before I go any further. Hmm. Very simple. You see a dog collar and leash sized for a very thick neck. Very straightforward clue.
Mhm.
Rodney Walters says, "What's that you've got there?"
Perhaps they kept a dog. It's run off now that they're all, well, scattered to the wind as they were.
A dog, you silly woman. Don't you know the story of the figs? One of them believes he's an animal. This is probably Patrick Fig's collar.
Yes, of course. How silly of me. Should just see them.
Indeed. He says, "Well, it's a good thing I'm here. Otherwise, we might overlook very important details like that."
Yes, of course. Why don't you continue to cast that very detail-focused eye on the things up here in this shop? I'm going to go back into the kitchens.
Yes, yes, all right. And he goes about. He's still just sort of casually moving things left and right while he smokes his pipe. He's not really making a big, solid. He doesn't know what he's doing. Very casual. You go to the back. I think we've already painted the scene here, so we'll skip it for now. But what do you do?
I want to look in the pantry and larder and all of the sorts of drawers and things and see if I can find any unusual ingredients or things that might point me in the direction of other hobbies or places they might go.
I will let you have the information move. I still want it with composure.
I'm so pissed about this, man. It makes perfect sense. That's a 4 plus a 1 is a 5.
Oh, I'm afraid you've stumbled into another one of La Hortensia's traps. You go for, there's a series of high cabinets and shelves, and you open one of the doors and you close it, and you realize that the whole thing, you have a moment to realize that the whole thing has been rigged to collapse down upon you. Unless you want to mark the Janus mask, you're going to have to probably do another night move to avoid this.
I would like to mark a mask, please.
Very good. Instead, I'm going to ask you, how do you feel about Dr. Walters' incredibly patronizing behavior?
She has suppressed the urge to cast a ritual to remove his voice 3 or 4 times already this evening in the 5 minutes she's known him. Has no patience.
I'm going to give you a condition, losing patience.
Vexed.
But otherwise, you'll find your clue, which I'll give to you when we get back to the scene. Jakob. Oh boy, Jakob, it's not great. So your weakness is all alcohol or this specific kind?
All alcohol except for gin. We, in a much earlier session, implied that gin was actually native to Mars, and that was why that one was the one thing that I was glad to see spread through the British Empire.
The posh boy says, "This look of utter smugness and certitude does not really suit you, sir. Or at least, I think it's something that you're not accustomed to wearing. I do know something about fit and fashion. You might be surprised to know that we had a visitor earlier today, a sort of ambassador from the Venusians, who explained to us that you might be coming to pay a visit soon. Indeed, in this little parley, they told us that, for some strange reason, you are particularly susceptible to spirits, and not just imbibing them. Their mere presence can cause, well, a certain look of certitude and smugness to fall right away. I wish to apologize to you, sir. I'm afraid your goat is got." And they surround you and begin pouring booze on you, splashing it on you. And you immediately feel all your gifts from the 5 vaults of Tarthor running out of you like water from a bucket. And they take their bats and clubs, which they have prepared to be particularly nasty and bludgeony, wrapped with metal, inset with nails, and they beat you and beat you and beat you until you are naught but a smear of blood and bone on the street. Would you like to put on a Janus mask?
Yeah, I think that sounds like a great idea. I'd choose a Janus mask over being a bloody smear.
Indeed, a bloody indeed. You know, Jazad, I guess, won't get his victory after all. Instead, he gives his whole little speech. He even tells you they've got you over a barrel, so to speak, if they need to. And he says, "So, as long as you understand our relative position to one another, I'd be happy to take you in to see the boss."
I think this is the moment where we get a sense of the future sort of imperious, superpowered nature of when Jakob Walsh will ultimately become Ulysses, the Martian Royal.
Mm.
This sorry, I checked the wrong mask. The mask I'm checking is to narrate a flashback to your adulthood when you became newly aware of your Martian tell. And I think I want to relate the mask before relating how I sort of dispense with the posh boy and his gang of thugs in a I don't know, spectacle of sorts. Is that right?
I love it. Yeah.
All right. I do have a quick, I want to double check a thing. I wrote something that I planned for a mask a long time ago, and I don't think I ever articulated. Did I ever talk about the Welsh tradition of Ceffyl Pren, a wooden horse that was sort of like mob justice?
Oh, yeah, you did. Yeah.
I did. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So this then is if you recall, I had intended to be clergy, but then my fingers sort of divided in a moment of revelation and excitement, and the family was like, "Oh, you need a job where your hands are not exposed," um, and so that led to this idea of becoming a solicitor, go a legal route, so I could keep my hands below the table. But there I am one day at home with my family, and I hear Wee Davy, the dog, barking incessantly. There's something going on by the stone wall where the sheep tend to graze, and I look out the window and I see that it's strange what's out there. It's not a normal thing that one would see in Jan Pedro Goch. It's it's these two hunched over rust colored beings sort of creeping towards the dog, and they've come through a portal next to this stone. The stone is like opened up, and these creatures have come through, and they're going for Wee Davy, like they're going to kidnap my dog. And I just dash out of the farmhouse, and in dashing out, turns out my legs can fork also and split apart, and I take off running with the speed of a quadruped to try to go rescue Wee Davy and catch up to the dog and snatch up the dog. And these two rusty beings who will later find are litter bearers of Prince Dorak, kind of realize that they found me, and they step back into the portal, kind of nodding to each other. Um, Back in the farmhouse, my parents are there, and they look to each other, and my mother Rhiannon says, "This isn't working. We can't keep him hidden. We're going to have to contact Lady Florence." So that's the mask, revealing that my body can morph in some strange ways beyond just the fingers that we've seen so far. And then here on the at this street scene with the posh boy and his gang, under threat of a deluge of alcohol, on a foggy moonlit night, I decide that I've had enough from these guys, that I need to sort of intimidate them by revealing my true powers. And almost like the Hulk, I kind of like shred out of my legs, like shred out of the pants, my arms go and shred out of the shirt sleeves, and I'm this like weird multi-limbed organic being rolling at them and like grabbing them and tossing them to the side. And bypassers just see like a weird flailing of like octopus tentacles or something, down the street in the fog, and have no idea what's going on. But my goal is to just toss these guys aside and then head in to confront Sally No Face.
Since you marked the mask, I'll let you do this. I'm going to give you an exhausted condition, but otherwise, you can do that. Let's take a 5-minute break. When we come back, we'll take our next trip to St. Thomas's. Mike, in the casualty waiting room, the experienced ward sister Mary O'Brien triages the sick and wounded. Who does she see? And will they live or die?
Yeah, so she shows up somewhat randomly, but Princess Alice's obsession with Florence Nightingale actually brings her in on some of these night shifts to help with patients. There's a woman that Mary O'Brien kind of passes by. There's a certain order to things that need to be handled, even as gruesome as some instances may look. There's a woman who is visibly pregnant, and the entire top half of her body is just covered in gore and blood, streaking along her face as well. Her mouth is even foaming a little bit. And Princess Alice walks over to this woman to help and to find out what she can do, what state she's in. And as Alice bends over to find out to speak with this woman, the woman almost snarls and bites Alice in the neck. You hear a gasp, and everyone is always keeping a little bit of attention on Alice when she's in the ward, and a big group of both patients and other staff crowds around. Mary O'Brien sees that there are enough people gathered around and can't see Alice anymore or this patient, and continues on her way. Alice will live in a way.
I will add that in that scene, in the background, there are a pair of Venusian observers making notes about the scene. Mr. Constantine, you're with this countess, or she says she's a countess, heading to Kenwood House, when you hear a voice that it seems only you can hear. The countess doesn't seem to be aware of it. The voice says, "Oh, I was wondering when I would get to meet you face to face, Mr. Constantine."
Dom will look around, trying to find the source of the voice, and just say, unconcerned with how this might look to the Countess, well, it's your lucky night.
The Countess says, "Now that's what I'm talking about, Mr. Constantine." The voice says, "Yes, I suppose it is. You know, it's really rather interesting, you and your whole benighted family consider yourselves better than people like me, hunters of people like me. But when it all boils down, you're just as bloodthirsty as the monsters you stalk in the night. You have no interest in saving these people. You have no interest in being better than us. You are a creature of blood and sport, just as I am."
I think Dom starts to say something biting or try to, but he just snaps his mouth shut, and you see his jaw clench.
In fact, I think if you were put in a certain situation, Mr. Constantine, if you were trapped like a beast, like an animal, you would lash out. That part of you would take over. Your civility would fall away like a mask, loosely tied. Shall we put this to the test, Mr. Constantine?
I was hoping we could start with a chat,
Isn't that what we're doing right now?
except I can't see you.
The Countess, meanwhile, she's like, "What do you mean? I'm right here. And I'm certainly happy to talk, but, you know, as long as it's preamble to something more interesting."
My dear, you are simply a distraction.
Well, now there we go, don't we? Distraction, or perhaps a convenient pawn in a little game that we should play. You are currently being pursued by two of your colleagues. They think they're keeping an eye on you. They are about to run headfirst into some associates of mine. These are the sorts of associates who really love a night like this. And you'll notice the moon is particularly bright and full. Now, I have it on good authority that this is not going to go too well for your male colleague, who I gather is more than just a colleague.
Oh, for a second, I thought you were speaking of Jakob.
Don't be silly. I prefer a hunt that is a challenge. I tell you what, I'll call my people off if you kill this ridiculous countess right now.
Dom will draw his blade and try and just plunge it into the woman's heart.
You can and do. After a few
Dom will-
moments, Lady Florence, you hear the slugger calling to you. I don't know where they've got off to. They're gone.
That doesn't seem right, does it?
No, I mean, they were just here. Maybe they sensed that we were going to confront them and they decided that discretion was a better part of, well, valor, so to speak.
And that Sia said that you would die tonight, so I really don't understand why we would be suddenly out of danger.
Yes, well, we can continue our wager in some other way, Lady Florence.
I'm glad that you honor a bet made, despite the circumstances.
I think we're losing, Dom. We should hurry.
Tally ho.
Dom, are you going to make some effort to hide the Countess's body or what you've done?
He will lower her to the ground, take his knife back out, wipe it on the hem of his coat, and start marching back toward the house.
Lady Florence, you'll see all that in silhouette. Dom says, what do you suppose happened? It looks like the woman fainted, perhaps, or...
That's a very idealistic way to describe what we just witnessed.
You hunters of Hargrave House contain multitudes. Oh, I was just pointed out to me that I keep calling the slugger Dom. Sorry. The slugger says, yeah, you hunters of Hargrave House contain multitudes.
We do. You do as well, don't you, Slug?
Don't put me in with your group. Don't lump me in with them.
Well, we'll see how this wager turns out.
Let's just go catch up to Dom. And he marches forward. Ah, Jakob. How do you feel after having so brutally dispatched the Posh Boys' men?
It's
And
sort
are you
of
still in your
interesting
strange
to,
form?
sort of interesting to feel your body do things that you I don't know, sort of knew it could do, but felt like you had to keep it contained. So kind of good to feel my true self in a way. My clothes are a wreck though, and gonna need a tailor as well as a washerwoman. And then a bit concerned that Jasad is still keeping an eye on me and informing others about my vulnerabilities. So gonna have to deal with him at some point.
Indeed.
Cast a glance up to the resplendent.
The Posh Boy has run away.
Mhm.
But the entrance to the exhibit is there. What do you do?
I'm going to head in and call out kind of alternating Sally and Clara. And if there's sort of a prominent space in the exhibition hall, a dais or a seating area, head towards that.
You hear Sally's voice. She's moving in the shadows, in and around, up and down, so you can't quite pin her down where she's at. But she says, I saw your little demonstration out there, Mr. Walsh. I'm not sure what you are, but you have suddenly become much more interesting to me. I I happen to know a very, very skilled tailor who might be able to help you. I think that your particular corporeal structure would present quite an interesting challenge.
Oh, that's very kind of you, but that's not why I'm here. I can track down my own tailor.
Why are you here then, Mr. Walsh?
I'm here for you, Sally. It's time to bring an end to your artistry, to your machinations.
Miss Belacqua, I owe you a clue, yes?
Yes, I just narrowly avoided getting a bunch of cupboards collapsed on top of me.
Mm-hmm. You find in the cupboard, which was not trapped after all, because you put on a mask, you find in the cupboard a book. It's a book of nursery rhymes. All the references to birds have been crossed out. That's your clue.
Fascinating. The mask I chose to check is actually the one where we introduce the coven.
Oh, let's take a look at your character sheet because I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do right now.
So the
Which one? This is a
moss-covered gate.
moss-covered gate. Tell the keeper to put the coven in play. I should immediately frame a scene showing that the coven has arrived in London. Oh, very good. Maybe out of character, remind us what we know about the coven so far.
Well, I was actually going to tie it into the other mask I owe. So if you want me to give that now, that might give context
Let's
and
do
flavor.
it. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Cool. So we flash back to Victoria. She's still spending weeks at a time completely avoiding her aunts and all the household staff by using her dark forces to hide in corners and avoid the rooms that they might be in through premonitions and cards. And one night, as she's sneaking back in, having dallied in the village yet again, and she heads into the kitchens and is caught as the cook is coming around the corner. So she dashes into the pantry and briskly closes the door. And the back panel of the pantry thumps gently against the wall as if there's nothing behind it. And if she kind of reaches and pushes on it, and on a spring, it opens into a door, and we see a spiral staircase lit by firelight leading down into the bellows of the house. And as she slowly rounds the corners, she comes down into a basement that looks like it's just dirt, like it's been there forever, but carved into the actual earth. And we see the traditional, like, cloaked figures around an altar, and she can hear them chanting over the body, rust-colored skin and two heads. And she sees somebody sink their hands into the body and pull out a bunch of entrails as the chanting continues to increase.
This very night, this foggy, moon bright night, a ship moors in Chelsea Harbor. The line tenders are surprised when no one is on the top deck of the ship to meet them. It's as if the ship just floated in of its own accord. But they nevertheless manage to scramble on it and tie it down before it can be damaged or cause any damage. The dock workers say, "Well, what should we do? Where did this ship come from? Should we go aboard? Should we see what's going on?" Well, certainly and a group of them decide they're going to board the ship and see what happened here. There have been stories of ships that are overtaken by plague, and everyone on board dies before the ship can reach its port of call. Knowing this, the men are all wearing face coverings and they are brandishing long sticks. They are not heartened when they open a door that leads to the lower deck and some stairs, and they are hit with a foul smell, a smell like burnt horsehair and feces and viscera rotting in the sun. A couple of the younger men vomit upon smelling this smell. And now they know for certain these people, this crew had plague, and they locked themselves in order to not spread it. But now are they spreading it? And they go to close the door, and they hear a voice in the darkness, a woman's voice. "No, no, dear. That won't be necessary. It's not what you think. Send someone down. We have some things to declare." One of the men goes down the steps carefully with a lantern. They see that the passageways have been scrawled all over with strange symbols, scrawled with chalk, with coal, and other substances. Hundreds, thousands of bizarre symbols. They're breaking out in a sweat. They get to the end of the hall, what would be the stateroom. Doors closed, and the voice behind it, not muffled despite the fact it's coming from behind the door. "That's right, just over here." He takes another step. He opens the stateroom door, and in that moment unleashes terrible evil upon the city of London. St. Thomas's. Sarah, the young nurse Agnes Pell, walks the TB ward, silent but for the labored breathing and hacking coughs of her charges. Who do we see amongst the gaunt, pale patients that shows death respects neither age nor rank?
As she does her rounds and pauses at the foot of every bed, we see her pause a little longer to tend to this child who is ragged and thinner than possibly a human being should be. But you can tell that they have spent too many nights on the streets because they don't sleep prone on the bed. Instead, they curl into a little corner on the foot of the bed as a dog would in on a rainy night in a doorstep. And the next bed is a man who, middle-aged but portly. Even though his skin is sallow, sick, and green, he still maintains a lot of flesh. And she can quietly hear him mumbling to himself about chicken jelly and duck liver mousse. And he's just feverishly dreaming of the fattiest of foods. And at the final stop at the bed, at the edge next to the window that's small and high, she sees a man who looks as if he's not quite sick enough yet. He just has the start of some sort of black infection here in his skin that they have diagnosed as TB, but we'll have to see.
Fantastic. Mr. Constantine, you hear the voice, this as you're setting the Countess's body in the hedge. It says, "So how did that feel, Mr. Constantine? Is your blood up?"
Would you enjoy it if I said that, yes, I am feeling prepared to do the same to you, that I got a thrill from plunging my knife into the heart?
Mr. Constantine, I am over 3,000 years old. I have dealt with scores, whole generations of hunters. None has ever been able to snare me. Certainly none has even gotten close to killing me. You are just another in a long line of failures.
Then I
will
won't
be
bore you,
here.
and I'll admit it did nothing for me at all. Felt nothing.
Oh. Are you trying to play at psychology, Mr. Constantine? Are you trying to show me that you're better than me right now?
I'm not known for my subtlety.
Did you feel that change in the air just now, Mr. Constantine? Tonight is a night of wolves and witches. London, it would seem, is reasserting itself. Not even the shiny pageantry of the Venusians can cause it to go completely dormant now, can it?
Well, tomorrow will be a day of one fewer wolves.
You're so confident, and yet you are walking into my lair.
And you're not stopping me yet.
Oh no. I have so many things to show you. And I'm very intrigued by the changes that are happening in this city, even now as we speak. I have to live at least another night so that I can investigate these things for myself.
We'll see.
I shall endeavor to keep you busy. I always insist upon being a good host, Mr. Constantine, but I'm afraid tonight is not the night that you and I have our little dance.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
Yes, I can smell it on you. Back in the exhibit. Is this where you diagnose me, Mr. Walsh? Is this where you tell me that my behavior is not my fault, that it was my mother that forced me to do it? Is
Not
this
at
where you
all.
explain how I am a creature of my environment, that it's not the sort of thing I had control over? It's nurture, not nature.
No, not at all. I've heard those horrible rhymes the London children sing about you. I've I've faced their taunts myself, as you can might imagine, as I point at my legs, and I'll take a seat and cross a pair of legs, cross another pair of legs, and say, the injuries you suffered, the physical ones, then followed by the ongoing taunting of children. I'm sure there's no place for you to find peace, but I've brought you something that I think you might find of interest. And I pull out that etched silver box of mantis green eyeshadow that grants the wearer an otherworldly glamour. And I say, I know you'll say no mere cosmetic can assist you in transforming or changing yourself. However,
Oh, quite the contrary, Mr. Walsh. I consider myself on the very forefront of cosmetic surgeries. Indeed, I believe very much in our ability and the wholesomeness of the desire to change one's appearance.
and that's where I think you have something yet to offer the city of London. Your skill in surgery. You've been interested in writing for some time, clearly. I think perhaps from your jail cell, you may be able to find a use for your remaining time as an expert on the subject of face transplants and reconstructive surgery. But you understand that your current habits have come to an end.
Are you suggesting that if I were to voluntarily walk into my cell in Bedlam, that they would furnish me with desk and pen and scribe if I need help in order to write down my discoveries and thoughts, that they might even find a body or two for me to experiment on? I highly doubt it, Mr. Walsh.
I have connections that range amongst not just the city of London, but otherworldly connections even that may be useful.
So I am to believe that you have me trapped, that there's no way I'm going to maintain my freedom beyond this evening.
You know I'm invulnerable to what you can do. So yes, this is it.
And if I promise to go with you, what if I were to agree to repay my debt to society at Hargrave House? I hear you
Well,
have a basement that is currently not being used.
we could use a good washerwoman.
What if we don't get the authorities involved at all? You just set me up with everything I need.
Oh, I feel like I might have to discuss this with others, though. There have been some
Oh, don't be ridiculous,
disputes over
Mr. Walsh. Don't,
prior strays that I brought in.
Mr. Walsh, I am very discreet, as you know. You say as you're sitting there amidst this, ridiculous exhibit with mannequins and faces and all kinds of weird shit.
Oh, I feel like, all right. For now, at least, I say yes. Let's go along then. But give me your scalpel. I have a tin of cosmetics for you here.
She appears from her hiding spot and she says, "Of course, I don't expect someone to bring me breakfast every morning, and I certainly wouldn't want to put upon you during holidays or other times when you might gather as a group, but I will expect that occasionally you will let me have access to willing participants as I do my research.
Ooh. Finding those may be a challenge, but we'll do our best.
Splendid. Ms. Balakwa. We haven't had a scene. Did we have a scene with you, Ms. Balakwa? Yeah, you got your clue. Lady Florence. And the slugger. I think you follow Dom into Kenwood House. It is. There are no candles or anything lit, but there are a lot of windows and the moon is very bright in the sky. You can see Dom doing what Dom does, carefully looking around, overturning things, looking around corners, all the sorts of things you'd expect Dom to be doing. Dom, you hear, I hope you don't mind if I start the hunt with something a little more indirect, maybe even ignoble.
You've been around so long, why not just skip to the chase? Aren't you bored by all this pageantry?
No. He seems distracted by something, Lady Florence. So distracted that he has not noticed that the enormous chandelier in the center of the foyer is presently spinning off its cable and about to fall on top of him. What do you do?
I'm really quickly going to point this out to the slugger, sort of an elbow and a point. And I think there's not like I can't really tell, I'm assuming, what is causing it to.
You've got a mere second to before this thing snaps and comes down on top of him. But you can get if you tell the slugger might be able to help him. He's certainly faster and bigger.
Yeah, I think it's like a silent communication to the slugger of what's going on, pointing the source, and I am going to reveal to Dom that I am here with a loud Dom.
I want the night move. What do you afraid is going to happen if the slugger can't knock Dom out of the way in time?
I mean, they both get collapsed underneath this chandelier, and that could be bad.
It's about as worse as it's going to get, I think. So yeah, we'll just leave it there. Go ahead and roll with composure for quick action, and taking a look at your. Oh, you have no conditions. Go for it.
Six plus, I think it's a 3 on composure, right? Yeah, so 9.
Complication. Unless you put on a mask, Dom sacrifices himself to save, or the slugger sacrifices himself to save Dom.
Yeah, I'm not letting the slugger go out like that. In fact, so I will mark a mask. I have
Very good.
plans for this guy.
Indeed. Let's go to our last stop at St. Thomas's. That is Ben. Oh no, this is Paint the Scene. I guess it should have been everybody, but we'll just have it be Ben for now. As dawn begins to break, how do we see the staff dealing with the stress of the night before, knowing they will be back again soon?
The dawn light touches the windows of the nurses' lounge, casting the dust and grime from the city outside into sharp relief. Inside, the nurses change from their stained clothes back into their streetwear. It starts with one nurse humming a ribald song when the nurse next to her, eyes sparkling with unshed tears of frustration and exhaustion, shakily adds her voice with lyrics as she laces up her dress. Soon another voice joins in, and then there's a burst of quickly stifled, awkward laughter before another nurse joins the song. From outside the room, an orderly walks by, his mouth quirking into a smile as he passes. The other two orderlies pass, stop, and the three of them listen, enjoying the performance.
Dom, there's a cry. The slugger smashes into you moments before the chandelier smashes to the ground. You hear that voice as the slugger lays atop you on the ground amidst the glass. Oh, the two of you look so cozy together. And you see Lady Florence. Let's just have that scene.
Tom's going to groan and kind of not so gently pull himself out from under the slugger and look at the chandelier and look at Florence and say, what are you doing?
For the record, I knew you'd be fine.
Of course I'd be fine. Why are you, and he'll help the slugger up, and why are you here?
He says, well, obviously we need to keep an eye on you.
Exactly. Me and Slugger are right on the same page lately, I've noticed.
He's not going to kill me, not yet, but you're fair game.
Oh, no bother.
Who's he?
The one I've been hunting, the Wolf King.
The Wolf King?
Yes.
The Wolf King. That sounds like something out of a fairy tale.
Oh, he is. Right out of a fairy tale, the one where children get eaten and parents get mauled.
Lady Florence is kind of like looking around, getting a gauge of things, but she is working her way towards Dom. I don't know if Dom and the Slugger have gotten up at this point, or are they still on the ground?
They did get up, yeah.
They're up.
Okay. Because I kind of want to Lady Florence has a suspicion about what's happening here, and she kind of has an ulterior desire for what's going to happen here as well. And part of it is she needs to get a signal to Dom. And so I think she does work her way over, and she's just in passing. It's a little bit more than just walking by, but she is going to whisper, like, if what I think is going to happen happens, it's not your job to kill him.
It is entirely my job. It is my duty. It is my entire reason, Lady Florence. And you know this.
And she looks back as she's walking away and says, not that one.
What?
And she kind of like nods at the Shortage Slugger.
Not what? No, he's no part of this.
If he becomes a part of this, it is not your role.
It's
The
not.
voice. This is turning out to be much more interesting than I thought it was going to be. Mr. Constantine, let's have a truce for now. You and your friends, it's far too late to go back to London proper. I have some rooms made up upstairs. Make yourselves comfortable. The larder is sufficiently stocked. You can continue your inquiries in the morning. I will be gone all night. I have to meet with some very, very interesting people who have just arrived in the city.
Tom will just grip his knife tighter and look at Lady Florence and say, "What are you playing at?"
Um, and I think I try and like separate him definitely out of earshot of the slugger. And I'm going to essentially say like the slugger has been conversing with seers lately.
Why? They're useless. Victoria accepted. Probably.
He does believe this evening will be the end of him, at least the end of his life.
No. No.
I agree.
Miss Balakwa, Dr. Walters comes up to you as you're flipping through the book of fairy tales. He's looking over and he's like, do you really think looking at storybooks for children is the best way to be spending your time right now, Ms. Balakwa?
She shoots him a look that is full of knives, and just as she is about to say something particularly cutting, she drops that book of fairy tales as she feels a force arrive in London and a presence that she has not felt for many years. And
Are you
that
quite
of
all right, Ms. Balakwa?
honestly, I couldn't.
You're feeling the tension as well, aren't you?
You can be quiet now. And I will actually carelessly throw a ritual at this man so he will shut up.
I love it. Very good. Let's just fast forward to the end of the night, Jakob, of you making space for Sally No Face and resolving the threat at
Yeah.
Hargrave House.
Trying to find some proper bedding in Hargrave House that because the child who was down here before, I'm so sorry, didn't really need quite the same accommodations that a living, breathing person like you might need. But I'll round up some bedding. I'll pull a few books on surgery and anatomy from the library and bring those down. What more? I'll bring down some laundry as well. And what are those things called? A washboard. Sally's gonna have to work for her keep, I guess.
Very good, very good. That'll conclude our night phase. Let's go to the dawn. A threat was resolved, so let's go ahead and grab some rewards for that threat. I will read them off to folks so that folks watching the video can see what they are. I'll put them in the chat for all of you. They are Sally No Face's wooden mask added to your personal quarters, her scalpel added to your personal quarters, a mannequin added to your personal quarters, a victim's face, or a memento from the investigation.
If no one else would like it, I think I would take this scalpel. Considering the bloody nature of me, that seems handy.
What else?
Anybody have an idea for a memento? for Jakob.
Clara Yarborough's washing basin and scrubber.
Excellent. I'll take it.
I think
I
Dom
think
would
I'm
take a mannequin.
I think I'm gonna take a face.
Fantastic. Let's do questions. Did the hunters answer a capital Q question? Yes, last time you did. And so go ahead and mark that one, everybody. Did you resolve a threat? Yes, you did. Lady Florence, did you have an echo in the night?
Nope.
Did you leverage your social status to gain the upper hand?
Oh,
Thinking back to last time as well.
yeah.
You tried to compel the slugger and the children to open the.
Well, that's right, you did.
Yes. Yeah,
Mhm.
very much so. Yep.
Did you have a face-to-face encounter with Jazad?
I don't think that has happened. Jazad has been off the board.
It has been for a bit, yeah. Ms. Balakwa. Echo of the night?
I was in the kitchen in both my memory and in Fix Pigs.
Yeah. Did you perform a ritual? Yes, a fast one.
Slapdash.
Slapdash, I'll take it. Did you have a face-to-face encounter with a dark entity?
I did not face to face.
Very good. Dom, did you get an echo in the night?
The three orderlies listening at the door, like the three werewolves stalking. his
Oh,
friends.
interesting. Very good. Subtle, but I like it. Did you tell someone why their plans were poorly made?
Was going for that with the way he just like, you're being an idiot for letting me get this close. to
Yeah,
the,
I could tell that's what you were kind of doing. Did you taste someone or something else's blood or fluids?
no.
Very good. Mr. Walsh, echo in the night?
Was aiming for the surgical tools and the covering of a face.
Did you stick up for yourself while being bullied by another hunter?
I don't think so. I think I've been working solo for a while.
You have been. Did you go on and on about your bucolic life back home?
I don't recall. I think no.
Next up, we have to resolve any playbook moves that are resolved in the Dawn. Are there any? Yep. You can mark new Dawn questions out if you wish as well. And I think we do have some Janus Mass prompts possibly still out in the world. One from Lady Florence, I believe. If you're ready for that, Mike, you can go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of forming. I don't know if I have it quite locked in, if I can get one more phase.
Sure, yeah, we can wait. It's no problem. In that case, we'll wrap there for today. Let's go to stars and wishes. Whoever would like to go first, please do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nope, you go.
No stars
Brian,
and wishes.
Everybody. No. We got some. Who's going?
You go.
All right. A hilarious star written in the chat. Mike wrote in all capitals: witches versus Venusians versus Martians versus werewolves. Let's go. And I just about lost it. What else? It was great to finally see the king, werewolf king, or the wolf king, or hear them at least. That the imagery of their manner is really fun. And what a wish. I need some vulnerable moves, not just because I'm full up on conditions, but because as I progress with my next mask, I'm going to start taking on conditions fast. So we're probably nearing the end of the plot arc for Jakob Walsh here, and I need to hopefully have at least one more face-to-face meeting with Jazad. So that's my big set of wishes.
You all currently have 14 mastermind clues, just one more, and that will trigger the end game process.
I'll go next. The booze-filled bats of Sally No Face's crew that just, for whatever reason, there was something about soaking nail-covered baseball bats in alcohol, but just seems so very London in the moment, like dirty, like. So I enjoyed that visually. I also really enjoyed the kind of like galloping Martian that Jakob is turning into. That like that flashback, that mask was really fascinating to watch. I love that Dominic is just so keen on the hunt right now that he is distracted from everything. That tunnel vision played out perfectly in the role play today, and I really thought that that was a big star. And then Lady Florence for just always fucking stirring the pot, man. She just always wheels within wheels. And I never know if it's a plan she had or a plan that she literally came up with in the 2 seconds after she said, I have a plan. So big star there. And then I really, yeah, I love getting back into this. Love these characters. And I'm really excited to see how this kind of like end swirl of the season with werewolves versus witches versus everybody else is going to play out. So exciting.
Definitely stars for Jakob's many legs and limbs and that sort of like reveal of the big form of him, at least that we know. That was lots of fun. Definite star for witches and the whole ship witches thing. That was really excellent. And yeah, Wolf Manor has me very, very intrigued. And I think one of the wishes is that Lady Florence is getting very interested in perhaps having the Slugger join Hargrave House, but he's going to need some type of supernatural ishness in order to do so. And it seems like there is a path towards that that is forming here very quickly.
He might
And
not have survived the night, right? So who
uh-huh.
knows?
So yes, she is definitely pursuing that, and I'm interested in that. And um, yeah, just making Hargrave House full of even more weirdos.
Star for every time we get to see Jakob go weirder and also making Sally No Face a new pet. It is one way to bring her in peacefully, I guess, and I love that for us. The interaction between Victoria and, well, every time she's alone with a barely tolerable man is great, but that, yeah, I'm just going to throw a ritual at him was a really good moment. Having Lady Florence sneak after Dom and the wheels turning in the head there about what could come out of this that makes things better for her and Hargrave House is just peak Lady Florence, and a star for when Mike, you messaged me with that idea. That is yes, good. Definitely looking forward to seeing how the Coven and the Wolf King and all of this comes down on our heads, and how we deal with all that.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. It was a very interesting session. For a lot of different reasons. I will give a star to I really quite enjoyed that whole sequence with Lady Florence and Dom and the Slugger. Just the whole build up to that was really fun. And there was lots of like little interesting choices being made, which I thought was great. I particularly liked the choice of whether the choice to like essentially save the Slugger, right, which was kind of intriguing. And I didn't know what you were going to do. I thought you might actually let the Slugger be killed, right? And I thought that would have been an interesting outcome as well. But it was interesting that you kept him. You used the Janus mask to keep him alive. Really enjoyed the whole interaction between the posh boy and Jakob and Sally and Jakob, and how that all kind of played out was really fun and dramatic. I had a lot of fun with Dr. Walters and and Victoria. She just always runs into these guys, or or like some
You
man
do seem to put them in
yeah,
her
they're like just
path.
there. Yeah, exactly. It's because you're most beloved, though. Like
Yep.
you attract these, like good and bad.
Idiots.
Yeah.
Idiots.
Um, it's the curse. But I had fun playing Dr. Walters, though. He kind of feels like a good stand-in now that D.I. Pettigrew's dead. He's kind of like a good replacement for D.I. Pettigrew in some ways. So that or the other, or the mortician, that weird mortician guy, like he had kind of some similar-ish vibes. Yeah, so fun NPCs, fun side characters, and fun interactions there. My wish, I actually really hope that Ms. Balakwa goes to find the Man in the Sun Mask, especially because of the Coven's arrival in London. I think that would be interesting to play. And I'm also very curious to see what the Wolf King and the Coven might be getting up to, what his plans might be. There's a part of me that thinks the Wolf King is an even bigger danger than Jazad in some ways, because he's 3,000 years old, I mean, he's not a spacefaring Venusian, warlord, but he is, an ancient being that has managed to survive this whole time. And now he might be allying with a coven of witches, so it could be a problem. But that said, I do think it's going to be interesting to see how Jazad's final moves look. It's going to be interesting because we'll get the 15th clue, but then we're going to have like 4 active threats that we'll have to work through before we can even get to Jazad. So there'll be like a we're going to be in like dark and shadowy London for a little while before we get to the confrontation with Jazad. But I think that'll be a lot of fun, and I'm going to do my best to like keep the Jazad energy and the Venusian energy high while we're doing that. So that'll be kind of a challenge for me, but I think we can do it. I don't think I have anything else. Any other stars or wishes? Okay. Fabulous session. Let's wave goodbye to everybody.